If you really understood what Jesus can do for you and only Jesus Christ, you would have this kind of passion. I'm not saying you don't, but I'm not saying you do. And so I can imagine, a blind man sitting there for, I don't know, however long he was, doesn't really give his age, probably heard about the Messiah, probably heard about this Jesus, probably heard of Jesus of Nazareth, and the things that he came to. Maybe he began to think to himself, or maybe as he was sitting there with his hands still out and no coins in his hands, marked and blind and a misfit, malfunction, an ostracized individual in Jericho. Maybe he began to mutter to himself or think to himself, wow, I wonder if this is that Jesus who they say baptized and heaven was opened up, was baptized by John and heaven was opened up and the Holy Spirit came down and the heaven or his Father spoke and rested upon him. I wonder, maybe he began to mutter to, if it's that Jesus that I heard about, because that's all he can do is hear, right? Who healed the man of an unclean spirit in that synagogue one day. I wonder if it's that Jesus of Nazareth, the one with, they say, the power and the authority, and when he speaks, he commands demons to flee. Maybe it's that one who got up one day in the synagogue and in front of all of the Sadducees and Pharisees, declared that he has come to set the captives free, to open blind eyes, to raise the dead to life. Maybe it's that one. I wonder, he says, and he's thinking because he's heard the stories, he's heard voices over the course of time. Is it that one who healed the woman with the issue of blood? Is it that one who gave Jairus his daughter back from the dead? Is it that one who raised up the Lazarus after being dead for 3 days? I wonder if it's this same Jesus of Nazareth who fed the multitudes with 5 loaves and 2. I wonder if it's that one whom the power went out of and healed, they say, all people. Is it that one? And then he says, I believe it is. I believe it is. Maybe he's just saying this to himself. Maybe he's muttering to himself. Maybe he's just thinking about this himself, But blind Bartimaeus was a really good theologian. Let me help you to understand what I mean by that. He really wasn't, but let's just say he was. Because, he says, I believe, wait a minute. Let me put that together. Wait a minute. It is that Jesus. I mean, the way they're talking, it is that Jesus. They're so excited. It is that Jesus. That Jesus has come to Jericho. That Jesus has come to Jericho. He's here. He's here in my city. He's here in the lowest part. He's here where I am. And I can hear the people. I can hear the people shouting about him. I can hear them joyous about him. I can hear them scorning too, the Pharisees, But I can hear the people, And then maybe he says, wait a minute. Let me put this together. And real quick, I believe it's a little type and shadow of the Holy Spirit. Wait a minute. What he did in Jerusalem, I remember the story of what he did in Jerusalem when a man was found blind and Jesus spat on the ground and he told him to go and wash in the pool of Siloam, and he came back with his eyes open. I remember that one man in the city of Bethesda, and I heard how there too was a man born blind, and Jesus spat in his eyes. He probably said, yuck, yuck, yuck. But anyways, laid hands on him and asked him, what do you see? And he says, I see trees, and laid hands on him again, and his eyes were perfectly open. I wonder if it's that one I heard about in the city. Two, actually. I heard in the city of Capernaum, it was 2 blind men who followed him blind to his house. They were calling and calling and calling, but Jesus wanted to see if they really wanted it, and he kept walking. And finally, when Jesus got to his house, he turned around and he says, what do you want me to do? They're probably running into each other, and they probably had CNI goats, kind of like, we don't know. But he got there, what do you want me to do for you? And they said, we want to see. Then he asked them the question he's going to ask you today, and he's asking now, do you really believe I can do this? Do you really believe I can give you vision? Do you really believe I can open your eyes? Maybe physically, maybe spiritually, maybe emotionally, maybe for your marriage, maybe for your future. Do you really believe I can do this? And they said together in unison as a song, yes, we believe. And he says, according to your faith, this is in Matthew chapter 9, according to your faith, be it done unto you. And then wait a minute, then this is his theology. This is why I say that Bartimaeus was a great theologian. Not really, but anyways, I'm just inserting that. He says, wait a minute, what he did in Jerusalem, and what he did in Bethesda, and what he did at Capernaum, he can do here in Jericho. He can do here in Honolulu. He can do here in Maui. He can do here in Kona. He can do here in whatever part. Come on, somebody. Kalihi's going to have a revival. Kona's going to have a revival. Come on, Honolulu's going to have a revival. The life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. Somebody get excited. It's important, but you know what he didn't want to happen? He didn't want his miracle, referring to Jesus, pass him by.